will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun, Cal. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Journey with PKD. Today's episode is about going beyond the physical senses and why that's important to our journeys. When I'm talking about the physical senses, I'm talking about what we hear, feel, smell, taste, and touch, our actual faculties. And the reason why this is important to mention is because they are oftentimes, especially in television and film, in a visual sense, they are shown as obstacles, things that have to be somehow dealt with or navigated in a different manner for the hero to progress. This is really important. And I think if you let the symbolism of that really sink into your life, you may see it in a similar way that I do. Because this really resonates with me. And probably why I love movies that have well done training montages and etc. when it comes to heroes realizing their limitations. And that's probably a good place to start. Our physical senses are limited. We know this. We know this scientifically, that what we're seeing, for instance, is just part of the light spectrum. We are not seeing everything that's going on in our reality. We're not seeing an infrared, microwave, etc. We are seeing specifically between Roy G. Biv, right? That's what we can see. And so we know that there's a limitation to our senses. In knowing that, there's already something going on there. There's a aspect of understanding that we're not getting the full story here. We're not getting all the information and data and stimuli that's meant for our brains to interpret our experiences. It is already starting off limited. And I think that's important because we start off limited. That's humbling if you let that sink in. We are limited, and that's important. Secondly, that our senses can deceive us. So not only they're not telling us the full story, they can throw us off the path. They can throw us off our intended goal and aspirations for our life, whatever our journeys may be. It could be the smallest of things, could be in very large and inspirational endeavors that we choose to go on. Life quests, if you will, our North Star that we're shooting for. We have both a limited faculty set, and it can also deceive us. We know that when we touch something that's hot, then touch something that's really cold, we have a different sensorial experience. We know that we can trick the eyes with all sorts of actual data stimuli for brain games, if you will. There's a whole show dedicated to this where you can do optical illusions and see what your brain is interpreting and if that's objectively real or not. So there's all these different ways that we can see that our senses are just not telling us the full story and can deceive us. And what I think that lends itself to is, well then, what do we do when we face situations where we come up to our limitations? And this is where all those training montages come in from storytelling that I absolutely love. I started this with Man of Steel and Superman, and I absolutely love how they did this entire sequence because you have so much going on. You have Superman discovering that he has these powers, and he's now going to test to see if he can fly. He maybe has this intuitive thought, you know what, I'm pretty strong, I can jump pretty far, maybe I can actually push it and fly. What would that look like? So imagine your life in going, maybe I could actually do this. I could actually move out of this town. I can actually go for that job. I can actually do this thing. Maybe I have this thing I can do. And maybe it's a little bit out there. Not sure. It just depends on the person. But he has this idea and he's by himself. kind of where I guess you'd put the Fortress of Solitude, but he's out there. He's out there in the white plains of the Arctic, if you will, wherever he is. And so then you've got him trying, he's jumping, he's crashing back down to earth, he's jumping, he's crashing back down to earth. But you have this beautiful juxtaposition with his father, Russell Crowe's voice coming in, telling him you will give them something to strive for, something to aim for, be an ideal. And he looks up at the sun where he gets his energy from, and he kind of draws back within, and his eyes go back within, and then, and this is key, then he's able to center up, and then bam, he flies. And I think those beats are so important. Number one, he was trying to do it by his physical effort alone, his physical abilities, his strength wasn't going to do it. You have the wisdom of his father, whether he's listening to it or just the audience, telling him, this is why you're doing what you're doing. What's your intention here? And then where he draws the power from. It's not within him, or his ego, if you will. It's in him. It's from the Son, which is the Son of God, if you will. There's a lot of biblical references in Superman. And then he shoots off. Then he's off and he goes. Then that is unlocked. That is so powerful to me. So powerful, because it's correct. It feels right. You push hard for something with your physical senses, you will only get so far. When you realize you need that extra dimensional quality, you need to bring in that axis again, the concept of the three. You need to bring in that other part of yourself, that higher part of yourself. Then you can engage and off you go. We see this everywhere. The Matrix is a great example because it's got so many of these ideas about training, specifically a kung fu training montage where Neo's fighting Morpheus, and he's told while fighting Morpheus, you think that's air you're breathing? And that was in response to Neo saying, you're too fast. And he says, do you think my being faster or stronger has anything to do in this place? And he kind of takes that in because his physical sensation of air in the movie The Matrix is not air at all. And then after he realizes that this world he's in is not what it looks like or even feels like, then he accesses the power and he's moving faster than anyone has seen. Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, he puts on the blast shield in the Millennium Falcon, and he says, with the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? A great question. And Obi-Wan tells him, your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. And once he kind of dials in, then he accesses something else, that magical quality, and then he's able to block the testing droid thing that's shooting at him with the lightsaber, not with his eyes. That's so key. That's so key to all of us. We will be tested in this physical reality. If you're not expanding, maybe you're not being tested. But if you have any kind of expansion going on in your life, even if the littlest thing, you're going to come up to these boundaries, these borders, these things that are meant in a certain way as a training ground to see if you're passing certain tests, seeing if you are genuinely getting the correct message to then move on to the next level of understanding, the next insight that is not been skipped or shortcutted. And that's what training montages are all about. There's a great one in Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, and he's trying to learn the ways of the samurai. And this is a very Eastern concept of master and apprentice, and he's trying to learn the ways. And he's told, actually, too many mind. So he's got so much regret and pain that he's experienced. He can't focus on what's there to be able to see and access the vision of how to beat his opponent. But you have to be cleared. You have to access something. You have to, I don't want to say earn it, but in a way you can look at it that way. to have that flow, the access to that flow, there's something that needs to be done, cleared out a little bit. And you can't carry your pain and your regret and your past around like that all the time. And then expect to be clear in what it is you're intending to do with your focus in the present moment. That's powerful in and of itself for just our everyday living. What are we walking around with that can be weighing us down? And that's why it's not just a physical endeavor. That which tempts us, seduces us, pulls us off our path are often where we see heroes fall. And so it's not just a physical thing. We see it a lot in physical, say, training, because that's where our senses are normally most attracted, and we're drawn in by what we hear, smell, feel, taste, and touch. So it makes sense that is what we see happening, that we're training in. But it's those other things. Literally the seductress woman who pulls you off your path, your quest. You get distracted. Lancelot, you get distracted. You get pulled off. You were going one way and then you got allured. And the sexual nature is something that is quite the obstacle, if you will, which is fully about the senses for the hero. Have they passed the test to see what's true about their endeavor, their quest? Is it pure in that way? Have they passed that final hurdle of that temptation? So these are things very important to the hero's journey and your journey in life. I know as a teacher of martial arts and a lover of martial arts myself, this is evidenced just like those movies and training montages, because you go up against an opponent and then you quickly realize my speed, my skill, my strength may not work or may not work all the time. And then you can be, if you're consciously aware, humbled by being outskilled and outmaneuvered, and that there's more to this going on and you have to up your game in a certain sense. But I love too, at the same time as saying that it's not a transference from something just physical. Because how many times have we seen, say, athletes or sports celebrities, etc., be so masterful in one area of their lives, but be absolute train wrecks, if you will, in a domestic violence, a drug addiction, something bad happening. So there's not a one-to-one transfer of, I mastered this in the physical reality, I can therefore do this in my journey. No, my friends, no, that's a mistake that's often made. That's ego serving instead of something else. So I think it's helpful to recognize that these things happen. Our senses are limited. They can deceive us, and we have to go beyond them in a certain way. We have to get creative. We have to get involved with them in a different way, engaged in a different way. Too many mind. However you interpret that, or Superman rolling back his eyes, or Luke, the Luke of George Lucas's Luke, not the other one, which is a whole nother story. But really realizing that this is, we are working in a limited reality that's manifest around us in a lot of ways to kind of check in on where we're at. And if we choose to grow, if we want to expand, we're going to get tested a little bit more. That comes with the journey itself. You know, the Navy SEALs have this wonderful saying, you default to the level of your training, which means you can habitualize something to a point that can be helpful and effective for you in times of when you need it. So if you have something that's raw and just undomesticated, you might just respond how you normally will if you're walking down a dark alley or something and someone jumps you and you go, you freak out. And that may be your initial response and impulse. But if you've trained, then you won't necessarily freak out or respond in that manner. You may respond with your training. And if you take that in a spiritual context, in a mature context, because I think that's ultimately what we're talking about developing here, then if you bring that quality of the three, if you bring the divine in, if you bring God into what's going on in your life, if you bring the higher in, the quality that you access from another place, then I think you can make it more possible as you're going towards that North Star to navigate problems and circumstances in your life. And that's going to happen in all of our journeys. So how has this helped you? If it has, where do you guys go? What are you accessing and where are you going when you reach those limitations in your physical senses? Could just be your effort, like Superman trying to fly by just, using his quads and jumping. And then he's like, oh, no, I got to draw power from the sun. So where are you guys with this? How do you access or navigate around when you reach those limitations, when you actually see them, when what you're doing is just, it's not working anymore, or you've asked for a bigger, better you, and you're not realizing what it is to get there? Which roads are you taking? So may this have been of service to you, and hopefully wherever you are, take care, Godspeed, and enjoy your journey. Peace.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. Stretch out with your feelings. You see? You can do it.
I call it luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.